because we did hit record, and we say hello because we are. So what do you want to do first? So we're doing a challenge, and we are doing a season wrap up.
No, already.
Season kickoff.
Yeah, season kickoff.
So let's do the season kickoff first, and then we'll do, I guess Daria was the one that we did this week that we're going to take the challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had some discussions around.
One moment, I'm turning off notifications.
Oh, thank you. I should probably do that.
Because I'm getting pinged from work. We had a dev went down yesterday, which only goes to show that we are still duct taped and rubber banding this system.
They need to hire RB Consulting because they can help fix some of those kinds of things. They can put together a roadmap
it's just
for
that tribal knowledge, and we haven't been really trained on it. And it's like, oh, you should be able to know. I'm like, how are we supposed to know how your existing system works if you haven't walked us through your existing system? We literally copied the code base, renamed things, and are trying to stand things up. Kind of like how we did way back in the day at
Ready Point?
No, the other one, American Home Patient, where we just kept copying and pasting. But at least, those applications were modular enough that it was fairly easy to make changes to. This is like authentication, Kubernetes, like it's so messed up, so connected that unless you know, you just don't know because it's not well documented. It's all that fun stuff. So, we had some ideas around this season. Where did they go?
Yeah, it should be in podcast ideas. I really like the idea of AI is exposing the cracks, just because to me that's got like a really punchy kind of title, and it's something that I like immediately see it as being something we could, have a nice seasonal image for it. Not to mention the fact, I think that's where things are going to be going. I think we're going to be talking about that for the next 3 to 6 months, is where organizations have gone from, okay, we got all of this cool AI stuff, and especially if the pricing and economics of it changes, I have a feeling we're suddenly going to see a lot of companies get really worried about all the AI stuff they did and why it didn't fix jack squat. And then how do they go from there? So that one I like. Yours was pretty good. What was the last one you did? It was in the same lines. I thought it was in podcast ideas. Where did yours go? Oh, is it on a? No. Did I lose it?
Or did I just put it on ours?
Maybe it's somewhere else. It must be on another thread.
No, it was just the one back and forth we had. Playing around. I had the realities of modern software development, but I liked the AI is exposing the cracks. And I had realities of AI exposing the gaps, but we could do exposing the cracks. That's fine too. But I kind of like the realities of AI. It's like, here's where we are.
Yeah, there's a good point in that as far as like.
Well, we can keep exposing the cracks. I'm just thinking, just add realities of in front of.
That's what I'm thinking. Is just maybe I do sort of like that part. So maybe the realities of AI, and maybe it's just realities of AI exposing the cracks. I like that. I think that because I do like the realities. I think putting that in there, I think, is a good piece of it. It's going to hit because it's going to hit people in the fields, I think, because I think that's what they're going to be running into. So let me adjust this a little bit. Yeah, sorry for those of you that are sitting at home following us in our little like off kilter things, but this is why you pay the extra fees. You have the premium VIP experience of jumping over to YouTube instead of listening on your little device. So bonus just out of the gates for you guys that are listening. I think I've talked about on the show before, Notebook LM. If not, and we've had it in bonuses or stuff like that. It really is fun. It is really amusing and informative. I've had a lot of stuff that I've used now. I've gone deep in a lot of areas. I got a lot of cool things out of it. Michael has noted that if you share it out, if you do it for yourself, you don't get this. But if you share it out, it will have like a little bit of a Notebook LM ad at the end of it. And then also, it's like have fun with AI because it will do stuff that I find to be a little bit amusing. Just and it's maybe it's a childish thing, but it's stuff like one I was listening to had Envision QA was one of the things that it was talking about, and it was Envision. And it took me a second to figure out what the heck is a vision cut, but it was because that was what AI had picked up. It also it was pretty fun. We have our TRC, technology reality check, and it knows that, or should, because it has that in the thing. But at some point it forgot it. And so TRC is used everywhere. And so it created this whole new TRC thing. I don't even remember what it was that it did. And it sort of lined up with what we had, but really not. And they like went down this neat little path discussing this product that we'd never had, probably never will have. So it was like, yeah, you got to be careful about acronyms and stuff like that as well. Be very clear when you're playing around with AI. So it's just fun times. Listening to it go off the rails or miss stuff, or when you have bad data. I'll give one last one and then we'll jump into this one. This episode is, I pulled information and I pulled the current week at the beginning of the week. So no work had been done yet. And the first thing I got in its summary was like red alerts because you had a week where no work got done. And I'm like, wait a minute, that is not actually the case. It gave me like a nice big, like, these are all the things that are going wrong. And this is all of this stuff. And I was like, wow, the world just like the sky fell. And then I put the data back, got the data right and said, no, this is the beginning of the week. Let's not include that. And then suddenly everything cleared up. So it's, again, these are the fun things. It's not AI hallucinating. It is AI doing what you told it to do with what you gave it. And sometimes it makes up its own stuff, strongly opinionated about it as well. Like, this is how you should do it. Until you say, no, you shouldn't. It's like, sorry. Yeah. It's like, sorry, you're right. And then it'll come back and do it again. So watch out because Chip can be an asshole sometimes. That being said, so we are going to dive right. So this will be a regular podcast. This is the season ending of 27. No, season kickoff of 28. All right. And you guys already know what the subject is going to be, but we're going to save that for the listeners. So shh, don't spoil it. Tres, dos, uno. Well, hello and welcome back. We are into a new season. Yes. Holy cow, 28. Season 28. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of podcasts that don't even make 28 episodes. This is also the season where we will trip the 1,000 mark, which is in itself. I know there's some people do 7 a day, like they do podcasts out the wazoo and they can crank up to those hundreds quickly. We've been doing this for almost 10 years now. I think it's 2017 is when we started, and it is solidly into 26 right now. So it's really cool starting this off. What is this, you may ask? Because you just randomly started a podcast. Well, if you don't know, this is Building Better Developers, the Developreneur podcast. I am Rob Broadhead, one of the founders of Developreneur, also the founder of RB Consulting, where we help you do, it's basically organizational readiness. There's a lot of different labels people use, but when you're about to jump into whatever your project is, scaling, advancement, modernization, things like that, we're going to help you make sure that you are going off in the right direction and not just spinning your wheels. And yes, AI does make spinning wheels much more likely these days. Good thing and bad thing. Good thing is, there's like that. See, now I wasn't really ready for this. I'm jumped up at me. Good thing. Good thing is I have fallen into the European cafe lifestyle, and so I'll get up and I'll go and have my little coffee and work at the cafe and crank some stuff out and things like that, and just enjoy it. I'm right by a beach, so I can sit there. I get the air blowing in my hair, what little hair I've got, and things like that. Great time for heads down focus. Bad thing is some places are not happy for you to camp out all day long. And I've sort of figured out there's a few that are like, they're a little quicker to come and say, can we help you kind of thing now. So I got to make sure I'm steadily like ordering a coffee or a breakfast or a meal or something like that to make sure that I'm like making it worth their while and not just taking up dead space. Somebody who never takes up dead space is my co-host. Michael, go introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Malash. I'm one of the co-founders of Developer Nerd, Building Better Developers. I'm also the founder of Envision QA, where we turn complex problems into simple, workable software so your business can run and move forward with confidence, and we can remove those bottlenecks. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing, construction is finally done at the house for at least 2 to 3 months. Whenever the wood dries and I can then stain it. Bad thing is the moment they get it done, we're at 100% humidity. So I can't even go out and enjoy my deck at the moment.
Well, that's what 3 a.m. was meant for. If you go for that, like that 5 minutes where it's not oppressive heat and humidity, and you have a fan on you and a cold drink, and you're good.
I mean, the bad part was like I went out at 6:30 this morning to let the dogs out. It was 83% humidity. I kid you not. At 7:20, we hit 100%. In like an hour, we went up 20. Oh my! It's going to be one of those summers.
This is one of those good things for me is I don't have to worry about that right now as I'm moving to where the comfort level is a little bit better. Speaking of reality, so we're going to talk about this season is the realities of AI because yes, funny enough, as we have progressed through recent seasons, we sort of were poking fun at it. We had a whole season where we did with AI because everybody thought that was just the cool thing to do, and now flash forward 9 months or something like that. People have been doing it. It's the same kind of thing. Everybody was like everybody's on the AI train. And now things are starting to hit reality. People are getting past that demo, past that MVP, and it's hitting production and is like screeching to a halt because they flew through some things that they shouldn't have. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about this season because it is the realities of AI, and AI is exposing the cracks, essentially. And this is where we're going to see that it's not a technology problem. It is actually an organizational ownership clarity problem. And we're going to have a lot of conversations about this. We're going to talk about heroes. We are going to talk about the development of Agile from what it used to be to what is it going to be now. How does it change? How does it not change? We are going to talk to people that are front lines that are building stuff. We're going to talk to people that are owners. We're going to talk to people that are just trying to figure it all out. I know we've got quite a few conversations ahead of us, and we're just going to start cranking to this soon enough. The big thing for this season, though, is it's developed in our conversations in the latter part of season 27. Particularly, we got into the first, it's probably about 5 or 6 episodes. And then by the time we were into those, we're into people were actually starting to do AI. It had progressed to a point where it was, I don't know if it was a tipping point, but it was definitely where businesses were doing it for real. And there were the bleeding edge people were actually doing serious things with it, or doing real work with it, or finding real problems that it could solve and figure out how to apply it to their problems. Case in point would be our conversations of Chip and what we've used at RB Consulting. Definitely with Matt Levenhow, which was one of the people, the early discussions I had with him is sort of what was a sort of a genesis of what Chip became. And then we've talked to a few others along the way with those sorts of solutions where they basically sat down and said, okay, this is what I can do. We've talked to developers. We talked to Thanos and how he is using agentic development and how fast that stuff progressed. Because when I talked to him about a month after we'd had the podcast, he had already advanced so far that it had changed how he was looking at development. He's one that would be interesting. We may try to get him to come back on because he's now starting to have an opinion around, do we even care what the code is to some extent? Because if the AI agents can do it all, doesn't care. It doesn't really matter if it's human readable anymore. So some of these things that everybody hates, like documentation, you probably still need it for the AI, but it doesn't necessarily have to be human readable, even though Bonus's Markdown is very readable and very editable. And I highly recommend you use it wherever you are using AI if you want true that level of notes. I'm going to stop there and toss it over to Michael and your thoughts on AI exposing the cracks and the season ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny how, like you said, our last season kind of progressed from AI as what is it, how can we use it, to okay, now it's suddenly totally different mindset. It's like how like AI has kind of transformed the industry, right? The last comment, about Thanos, about do we really care about the code? I've been kind of feeling that way lately too. It's like, do we really need code? Do we really care? But like you said, the Markdown. I've actually seen AI the way I've been kind of playing around with it, because I've started building a service to start automating some things for the podcast. And I found that the markdown that it's starting to generate for me is very reminiscent of the old AS400 RPG days, where you could do the line like, when was it changed, like what was changed within the code. So basically, you're, instead of Git and all this with the comments, you're seeing the line changes like documented in the code. The markdown it's creating for me is in that format, and it's kind of cool because I can almost go look at these markdown files, and it's like a checklist of what's been done in the code. There's your self documentation for what the application does. And yes, the code may look clunky in that, but you have a clear idea of what it's doing, which is still even better than what most software shops build today. So I'm just amazed at the transformation we've seen. And I think a lot of it has been just probably within the last 6 to 8 months, as it became more readily available. And the coding pieces like Codex and Cloud Code got better. And all the plugins with all the standard tools, it's just amazing where it's going. So, but the problem is, and we, the first interviewer we have for this season kind of gets back to the core issue. The cracks that AI is really going to expose is around, especially in our industry with software. It's going to expose the cracks in how we actually, the concept of software development, building our software teams. How are we building software as a business? I think all that's out the window almost these days. It's like everything that we went to school for, all the science around that. AI does 90% of it, but what we need the critical thinkers. We need the people that are going to work through the problems, that are going to help us keep AI in check. So I'm very interested in to see how this season progresses, because, well, yes, we're going to be talking about the realities of AI and the cracks. I think this is going to become a season where we start talking about people more, as to how we are going to have to evolve ourselves in this new AI world.
100%. This is definitely the people part of the equation is going to be highlighted more and more. Initially, everybody started talking about AI as human in the loop and reviewers and all that kind of good stuff that you need, but they didn't. The discussions have now changed a little bit, and I think it's going to continue to do so, because yes, the developers themselves are going to have to change. I don't think that what we learned in school necessarily is thrown out, but I do think probably the first year or two, or depending on how your education went, there's going to be part of that is completely useless. I'm starting to get more and more of the mind that you really you probably need to know a couple of development languages, and once you know that, and it's not You have to know it because you have to know it. You have to understand how languages work. You have to understand all the basics and all the theory behind it. What language it is doesn't matter. The fact that you know Ruby or that you know Node or you know React or whatever the heck it is becoming completely useless. Yes, there are some here and there where it's like, okay, yeah, that's a pain in the butt. That's a really weird language. You probably need to learn a little bit of it. But I'm not even sure about that. I'm starting to have more and more of an opinion that it's like, as long as AI can figure it out, I guess if it's a very rare, unique language where there's almost no support for it, okay, AI is going to struggle. But honestly, give AI the syntax and a book on it, let AI go learn it, and it can go do the coding for you. At the very least, it can get you, some good starts to it, and then you can maintain your way through it. As long as you have the core understanding of what software design looks like. You have to, now it's going to push you to have to design design a sneeze right into your software and be able to understand things like what is a good architecture? What is a secure architecture? How are you compliant in whatever world that you need to be compliant in? How do you validate, for example, like if you build an application that needs to be HIPAA compliant, how do you validate that? How do you ensure that it's done that? All of this is the human piece of it. And it does shift the human, the progression of the developer career, I think, because now the entry level, you're going to jump right into having to like essentially show other developers how to develop because that's what AI is. It's just a junior developer that you are right away leading. And I had a really good conversation with a CTO yesterday, I guess it was, about the humanity. And this is where it's going to be really interesting because we all know people that we've come across in their careers that they may be really smart, but they are horrible managers. They have no empathy. They have no sympathy. You hear this stuff where they're just like, some of it's like some of these CEOs where they're just like, oh yeah, we fired 25,000 people. Or we just did it across board. We just picked 25,000 people and laid them off. It's like, there is a human cost to that. And if you can't relate, then how on earth are you going to expect people to follow you? How do you expect, especially as you get to be a larger organization, how are you going to be able to lead if everybody thinks you don't care about them? So the human side, I think, is going to come out quite a bit. But I think the real cracks here are going to be, it's really what technology has covered. We've used technology to gloss over cracks in organizational structures, ownership, clarity, politics, all these other things since it started. We've basically been able to say, yeah, it's not that good, but if we can get it done faster, then yeah, it's not great, but at least we got to the end. We got quality enough that we tested it through what it needed to, and it went out and it's like, okay, we're shipping. And maybe we're shipping faster than we were. So the fact that there's some processes underneath it, or there's some things that are rattling that shouldn't, that's okay because we got to the end result. What AI is doing is it's shoving all that stuff forward. It's saying, okay, these broken processes that you were speeding up, well, now it's almost like done an infinite expansion of it to the point where it's now, okay, you don't get 2 weeks to figure out development and feature set and how do you review them and how do you flag them and how do you, time for the product owner to go figure out a backlog because bam, as soon as you put that backlog in there, you go to sleep that night and then it's there again. And now you're ready to review. And then your users are like, why is it every time I come in every day and I've got new features. I've got a whole new application almost looking at me. These are things that were fundamentally not thought of before because they weren't an issue, because things were going too slow. And so now AI is going to shine a light on these things, and we're going to have to reset, I think, expectations. We've talked a couple of times now about pricing. What does this look like if you were coding by the hour, and so you were saying, okay, I spent an hour of my time, and you got to pay me $1 for the hour that I spent. Well, that sort of goes away now. So how does that work? And it's a whole new economy because we're seeing that there were a bunch of people that were laid off because they thought AI was going to save them a lot of money. And they realized that no, actually AI didn't save them a lot of money. So yes, you can play on the edges and you can really kick butt with it. But once you scale to a certain point, now you're into the point where you're paying for those tokens, you're paying for all of that. And if you're not doing it smart, then you're essentially going to spend more money on those tokens and especially because you're going to redo it. It's bad work done more often, and it's going to be more expensive. And funny enough, this is what we've always argued: is that a very junior, cheap developer in the long run is going to probably cost you more than a senior developer in a lot of situations, because the senior developer is going to get it right the first time. They're going to do a better job. They're going to cover more of the mistakes. There's not going to be as much rework. They're understanding it faster. There's not as much communication issues. AI is the same thing. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we talked about this before, but it's like we're going to see disruptions across the board, not just with developers. Like cracks are like paralegals. You talked about the hourly rate thing. Lawyers and that contract writers. Those positions are going. How do you bill for those? Because you're not going to take weeks to do it now. You're going to be hours or even minutes, depending upon how you architect your contract writing. It's one of those things where I think businesses are going to find that the human factor is still very relevant. Software design, we're going to get back to the science, less about the languages. It's going to bring up those that actually have focused on the science, understanding software development, understanding how to build systems. Those are going to be critical assets to have in this evolution of software development. I think you hit on so many good points. It's the biggest problem with AI is it exponentially exposes those cracks. It exponentially takes a bad process and makes it worse because it's going to do it faster, more often, more repetitive. So we need to start really focusing on identifying the processes, fixing those issues before we throw it all into AI, or do a run through AI to figure out where the problems are, pause, address those problems, and then start working it back in, or address it one at a time and work your way through the process. It's almost like and God, I'm dating myself here. Going back to like the Lucy show where she's on the conveyor belt and it's the chocolate factory and the chocolates are coming out and they're pulling them and putting them in. That is today. That was before AI. Then when you throw that lever up and you now have hundreds of chocolates coming out at once and your people cannot get them in the boxes fast enough, that's AI. You've now taken a process that cannot scale to AI and you are now blowing things up. So just be very cautious. And I'm very curious to see who we talk to this season, our discussions we have about this. And I'm very excited because you and I are both already pushing this. We're already talking about this. We're already working this into our businesses. And I'm just very excited to see where we take this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I will add one thing as we're sort of wrapping up this kickoff is that I have found personally that one of the things that AI has done that makes me very happy, I guess, or more fulfillment in my job is that it does take away the one of the challenges that we have of weighing. I guess it's risk and reward and things like that. The cost of doing things like documentation and testing and all that, the technical debt side of our world, because now those things have sort of been alleviated. It's still there, but it does allow us to do things right and not feel so much that that's going to cost us so much extra time in getting it done. I've got a customer that we've talked through it as expanded their scope quite a bit on what we're doing, and I didn't have to say this is going to change our goalposts. Basically, we're still going to aim for the same release, an initial release date. We're going to put some more stuff into it. We're already, a lot of what they were doing is we're adding, we're hardening systems. We're adding some more security. We're adding some of the things that are the enterprise touches. And these are the kinds of things that are now not as difficult to do, because you can just say, okay, let's go do that. I've found a lot of the applications now, when I go back to them, if there's something we haven't touched, we'll go back to it. One of the first things I'm going to do is I start hardening that stuff up again. I start looking at, like, where is there technical debt? Because if I'm here, I might as well get it done, because it takes what? I don't know, 10 or 30 minutes more maybe to go back and address some of that technical debt. So why not do it? Now, it changes the focus. It does, some of it does change to, like, yes, I could add that feature, but why? If it wasn't needed before, if it wasn't valuable before, then why do I need to do it? And just because I can is not an answer. So I think we're gonna need developers that understand business a lot better, and how business works and what those processes look like, because the days of there being just a developer coder type person over here and there's being all these other people between in the business are disappearing. The coder, honestly, in some cases, you're going to be a point where there's like technical POs or BAs or project managers or anything like that could possibly be doing some of this stuff, especially when you look at some of the latest tools. I'm seeing some of that. I'm seeing people where they're using N8N and some of these others. I forget all of them. And they are, they're doing this stuff, but they're not getting, they're not coming out with very good software because they don't have the architecture. So that being said, we're going to see how this season goes. I am really looking forward to it as well. But as always, thank you for hanging out with us for this long. Hopefully you are ready to take a lot of notes and erase some and then rewrite them, because I'm sure things are going to continue to develop very quickly as we go into this season. But as always, go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. We'll do that.
A little bit of bonus for this episode. You touched on it, but making sure that I don't do scope creep on my application. So I put in what my MVP is, and I have it do status checks as I'm working through a problem to make sure that I don't bloat the scope too far past what it is. Now, it could be a feature that it determines that is required, but I've actually have been using it to pull back scope to make sure that I'm only solving the problem that I'm trying to solve. And if it's something else that needs to be added, I put it aside and I come back around to it after I finish the first thing I'm working on. Because that's one problem you're going to run into with AI is, for those of you that have squirrel syndrome, you're going to be jumping around way too much. You need to pull yourself back in.
Yeah, there is definitely... I talked to somebody the other day that's what he does, is he's got like 4 or 5 agents, basically projects he's working on at a time. And sometimes you can get like, cross purposes of which is which and what is what. And particularly when you start dealing with rabbit holes, essentially, if you start working with something and you're going like, oh yeah, this would be a cool feature, is making sure that you like finish what you're doing before you step into that feature. And it can be difficult, especially like, for example, I will just share an example of that, is that I've got 3 different projects that have interrelated pieces, and they're all doing slightly different things, but along the same roadmap. And you guys will probably run into this at times where you're like, you're dealing with different, maybe departmental apps and things like that. And so making sure that when I say, oh, this one over here, there's some really useful stuff I can do with it, I don't jump ahead in that before I've got it synced up with these other things, so that we don't have a situation where now I've sort of broken the equilibrium of the system. And it's another great thing. It is a great use for AI and for markup and things like that, is I'm constantly shoving stuff into notes, statuses, checks, updating statuses, putting notes in there and all that kinds of stuff. And it's faster than I can type it. So I could be just like, write notes on all this, note this out, take this and update it for all of this stuff. And those things it's amazing how fast that can make you get through those things and still give you that that control and the ability to go back and look at like, make sure like, okay, we're on track. We're getting the things done that we need to get done. That wraps this one up. We will be back. Actually, the first thing we're going to be back with is you guys will see us with the Friday challenge, but then we will be diving into season 28, episodes 1 and 2, and we are changing it up a little bit for you guys. The audio, I think we decided, will not be different. We're going to continue to have our Monday, Wednesday releases Tuesday, Thursday releases for audio, but we will start having additional releases for the YouTube side because we've got some extra cool stuff. It's just there's too much going on, so we're going to add some extra content. So you guys get more bonus. So the return on your investment is going to be that much more this time around. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we're looking forward to seeing you with the weekly challenge and then diving forward into season 28.